The apartment was unusually still that Tuesday evening. Not silent. There was always the low hum of the fridge, the faint ticking of the brass wall clock she insisted on keeping even though it ran 10 minutes fast, but still, like a held breath. I dropped my keys into the ceramic bowl by the door, the one we bought together at that craft market she loved, and felt something shift. Not physically. No drawer ajar, no purse out of place. Just something. A weight in the air that hadn't been there yesterday. I didn't know it then, but I'd never be able to unfeel that atmosphere again. It was in the way the shoes by the door were misaligned. Hers always perfectly paired, mine scattered as usual, but today hers were touching mine. Overlapping. Unnatural. Like someone else had set them down in a rush and pretended not to. I didn't linger there. I didn't need to. My hand reached for the fridge like it always did, muscle memory, and I pulled out the bottle of water she always left at the front. But it wasn't her brand. That alone might have been nothing. Except there were two bottles. One open. Half drunk. I hadn't been home the night before. I was on a site check overnight. Something she said she hated because it made her feel like the apartment was too big and too quiet. That phrase echoed now, as I turned the bottle slowly in my hand. There was lipstick on the rim. And not hers. It wasn't red. It was peach. And my wife didn't wear peach lipstick. Ever. She once told me it made her look washed out. Like a ghost. So whose ghost had left a trace in my refrigerator? I set the bottle down. No dramatic gesture. No tightening jaw. Just precision. Cold. My eyes swept the counter, and I spotted it. A spoon. Not from our silverware drawer. Not even our style. It was stainless steel, slightly heavier, with a narrow handle and a dent at the curve where it met the bowl. Like someone had bitten down too hard on it. I'd never seen that spoon in our house. Never. But it was rinsed, left upright in the drying rack like it belonged here. Like he did. The drawer next to the stove. Hers. It held tea bags, vitamins, and the little notebook she scribbled in when she was trying to journal more. She wrote in neat loops, consistent and careful. But there was a scrap torn from it, ripped without her usual precision, sitting face down beside the coffee maker. I flipped it with a fingertip. 3 digits and a slash. The start of a phone number. Followed by M. Tuesday. Scribbled in a different pen, a different pressure. Someone writing quickly. Someone not supposed to be here. I stared at it for maybe a full minute. Not moving. Not breathing. Just cataloging. Then came the real fracture. The cabinet under the bathroom sink creaked when I opened it. It always did. I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted to confirm that the world was still real, that the pieces still made sense. But tucked in the back corner, half obscured by the toilet paper pack, was a toothbrush. Black handle, blue bristles. Not mine. Not hers. I pulled it out slowly. The head was damp. That was when my body betrayed me. My skin prickled, my stomach twisted just slightly. Still no outrage. Just that hollow certainty. The toothbrush was upright in my hand when I caught my reflection in the mirror. My face was calm. Too calm. Like I'd rehearsed this. Maybe I had. Maybe every man does, deep down, even when we pretend we're above suspicion. She got home 2 hours later. I was sitting on the couch, laptop on my knees, looking at spreadsheets I couldn't read anymore. She smiled like always, kissed my cheek, and dropped her purse with a tired sigh. Long day, she said. I nodded. Didn't mention the shoes. Didn't mention the lipstick or the spoon. Didn't even glance at the toothbrush. Just nodded. Because it had already started. The unraveling. Quiet. Cold. Clean. And I wasn't going to interrupt it. She started meditating. That was the first thing she changed. A quiet habit that wouldn't raise alarms. Something she said was for mental clarity. As if her mind had become some great battlefield I couldn't see. She bought a mat, rolled it out in the corner of the living room, and asked me not to talk to her between 6:30 and 7 o'clock every morning. I nodded, of course. Who interrupts healing? But it felt strange, watching her sit so still, eyes closed, palms up, facing nothing. She looked peaceful, serene even, but I began to notice she never set a timer. Never checked a clock. Sometimes she'd emerge after 15 minutes, other times an hour, her expression unreadable, like she'd traveled somewhere else. Somewhere I wasn't invited. Conversations became clipped. Her voice lost its rhythm, the way it used to bounce when she spoke about her day or asked about mine. Now it was all outlines and vague language. We're all under pressure at work. I just need time to recalibrate. Can we just not do this now? That last one became her refrain. I hadn't asked anything, really. Just if she wanted to do takeout or cook. But the answer was always framed as a defense. Like she was already mid-argument with someone else. She began double-locking her phone. A new passcode and a facial recognition update she didn't mention. I only noticed because one day it buzzed while she was in the shower. Reflex made me glance, not out of suspicion, but instinct. Just a name. Corey. No last name. No emoji. Just a line of text beneath it. Sorry about yesterday. You good? My eyes stayed on that screen for 5 full seconds. Then it blacked out. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, humming to herself like everything was untouched, I just nodded. She picked up the phone and turned her back to me as she typed. Her shoulders stayed too still. That night she laughed too hard at a sitcom we'd already seen twice. I was on my second beer, watching her, not the screen. Her eyes crinkled, but the sound didn't reach them. It was laughter that sounded placed. Like she knew someone was watching and wanted to prove something. The silence that followed the credits felt like a stage set after the curtains fall, props still standing, but the scene long gone. Her calendar started to change. She kept a big dry erase board in the kitchen, always had. Color-coded events, little smiley faces next to date nights, stars on days she needed to reset. But now things were wiped clean faster. Appointments appeared and vanished without explanation. Studio time, mentorship meetups, solo retreat prep. Vague, free-form things. She spoke of them like rituals, like sacred personal obligations that couldn't be shared. Once, she caught me glancing at the board and smiled. I'm just trying to hold space for myself, she said. Then kissed my temple like I should be proud of her for it. One night, I heard her talking softly in the guest room. Door cracked open just an inch. She never used that room, said the lighting was bad and it felt like a hospital. But her voice was in there, quiet but clear. Not a phone call, there was no pause, no other voice. Just her, speaking like she was rehearsing. Saying things like, you don't need to apologize. I told you I'd take care of it, and he's too used to being safe. I moved toward the door, each step slow, heavy. I could hear my own breath. But just before I reached it, she stopped. I waited, hand hovering near the knob, pulse too loud in my ears. Then a drawer opened. Papers rustled. Silence. I stepped back. 5 seconds later, the door opened and she slipped out, startled to see me. Her eyes widened, then narrowed with a too quick smile. Hey, couldn't sleep? She asked. I just looked at her. She wore one of my t-shirts. Inside out. Yeah, I said. Weird dreams. She nodded slowly, lips pressing together like she had a secret she wanted to pity me for, but couldn't. She walked past me. Didn't touch me. The next day, I checked the trash. I don't know why. Maybe I was hoping for something stupid, like a receipt, a note, some accidental slip. Something concrete. But all I found was a matchbox. Plain black. One we didn't own. On the inside was a name embossed in gold, Karma's Denver. It smelled faintly of vanilla and cloves, something that didn't belong in our life. Not unless it had been brought in. I looked it up on my phone. A lounge downtown. Hidden. Exclusive. Members only. She hated those kinds of places. Said they were fake and full of people pretending not to be lonely. But I stared at that name for a long time. My thumb hovered over the number, ready to call. I didn't. Instead, I put the matchbox back exactly where I found it. Buried under coffee grounds and eggshells. She came home an hour later, smiling like nothing mattered. Said she wanted to reconnect this weekend, maybe do something spontaneous. Her voice sounded airy, weightless. That night, she reached for me in bed. Her touch was soft, familiar, but her other hand stayed close to her phone. And I didn't sleep. Not even a little. It happened on a Saturday morning that was too ordinary to feel like betrayal. She was humming in the kitchen, barefoot, peeling clementines like it was any other weekend, like the silence between us hadn't become a third person in the apartment. I was pretending to read an article on my laptop, but my eyes weren't moving. I was watching her reflection in the oven door, small and distorted, like a child's sketch of someone pretending to be whole. She laughed at something on her phone, a single breathy chuckle, and placed it face down on the counter like she always did now. That's when I asked if I could use it. Simple. Calm. Said mine had died. She froze just slightly, her fingers curling tighter around the peel. Then she smiled, wide and perfect. Sure, she said, sliding it across the granite. Just close my apps when you're done. I nodded, picked it up, unlocked it with her face while she casually turned her back to rinse her hands, and that's when the final crack snapped like a bone under pressure. Not a message. Not a photo. Not even a name. It was a calendar event, hidden in her notes app of all places. A recurring one. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 6:45 a.m. to 7:30. Corey, stillness practice. Not yoga. Not meditation. Stillness practice. I stared at it, letting the words burn themselves into my skull, and then I opened the attachment. A photo. A yoga mat. 2 cups of tea. 1 mug I'd never seen before, a handmade ceramic thing with a chipped lip and a strange black glaze. The second cup was hers. I knew it because I bought it. I knew every line in its cracked handle, but that wasn't what did it. What did it was the rug underneath the mat. Woven. Deep red and gold. We didn't own that rug. I'd never seen it, which meant this wasn't her studio. Not some wellness space she rented. This was someone else's home. Someone else's morning. Twice a week. Every week. While I made her breakfast and left it in the fridge with little post-it she stopped reading months ago. I stared at the time again, 6:45. Her meditation hour. That explained why there was no timer. No alarm. She wasn't searching for peace. She was already in someone else's bed, drinking from a mug with someone else's fingerprints. The clementine peel landed in the sink with a soft slap. She turned and asked me if I still wanted to go hiking later. I looked up, smiled, told her sure, sounded good. She smiled back, then reached for her phone, pausing when she saw it was still open to the note. I met her eyes before she could touch it. Something in her faltered, just for a second. Then she laughed. Didn't think you'd be interested in my boring schedule. I shrugged. Just curious. And I walked past her to the bedroom, calmly, laptop still under my arm. That was the moment it all ended, not with an accusation or a slammed door, but with a pivot. A tightening. A clarity so sharp it could slice through skin. I wasn't hurt anymore. I wasn't wondering. I wasn't even angry. I was focused. My love for her didn't die in that second, it calcified. Hardened into something clean and surgical. I wasn't going to ask who Corey was. I wasn't going to ask what stillness meant. I already knew. And now, she would never see me coming. It was supposed to be a quiet dinner. Her idea, of course, she called it a reset, said we needed to reconnect, to stop drifting. She picked the restaurant. A minimalist, candlelit place where you had to whisper to be heard. She wore the dress I always said made her look powerful. Not beautiful, powerful. She liked that word. She ordered the wine. She smiled like a hostess, like none of it was burning underneath. And I let her. I let her talk about work, about balance, about navigating inner resistance. She used that phrase like it meant something. I nodded through it all, watching the way she held her glass too carefully, like someone who knew she had to stay poised. Halfway through the meal, I mentioned Corey. Just his name. Quietly. Casually. Like it didn't matter. She blinked once. Laughed like I'd misheard something. What? She said. I leaned forward slightly, matching her volume, keeping it all between us. You should thank him. His rug photographs well. Almost too well. She froze. Her fork paused just above her plate. I don't know what you think you saw, she started. I cut her off with a glance. Calm. Surgical. Stillness practice. Tuesdays. Thursdays. You pack your mat in the trunk at 6:20. You don't meditate, Elise. You rehearse your absence. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again with a breathy scoff. You're spying on me now? Is that who you've become? Her voice was louder than she meant. Heads turned briefly. She leaned in. This is why I needed space. You cling. You suffocate everything until it dies. I smiled then. Not out of amusement. Out of pity. You've rewritten this in your head so thoroughly you don't even hear yourself. You think I was the weight dragging you down? You left weeks before you started packing. You just forgot to take your mask with you. She rolled her eyes, her voice sharpening. I didn't cheat. You don't know what this is. You're making wild assumptions from, what? A calendar entry? I pulled my phone out, laid it flat on the table, and tapped once. The photo lit up the screen. 2 mugs, her mat, his rug. I watched her eyes fall on it. Watched the lie die in her throat. You carried my mug to another man's apartment, I said, voice low. You brewed tea in it. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. You brought pieces of me into someone else's morning. She flinched. Her lip curled slightly. You're being dramatic. It's not like we were perfect. You've been checked out for months. I nodded, slow. True. Because I kept giving you the benefit of the doubt. Because I thought the woman I married deserved time. But you weren't reaching for healing, Elise. You were reaching for applause. You found a man who didn't know you're right yet. Her composure cracked then, just a flicker in her eyes. She laughed again, but this time it was brittle. You want to play victim now? After ignoring me for years? After making me feel invisible? I leaned closer. You were invisible because you were empty. You stopped showing up long before I stopped noticing. You were already someone else's project by then. Her voice rose again. I was trying to survive. You just watched me drown and did nothing. No, I said, cutting through her words. I watched you walk into the ocean with another man's hand in yours. I just finally stopped yelling for you to come back. Her jaw clenched. Her breath hitched. She looked around, realized people were watching. Good. Let them. Let them see her not as the victim, but the architect. You don't understand what it's like to feel alone in your own marriage, she said, softer now, like she was trying to pull sympathy from the air. Then maybe, I said, leaning back, you should have ended the marriage before building another inside someone else's apartment. Silence followed. The kind that hums louder than any voice. She sat there, blinking hard, her fingers curled tight around her napkin. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. You wanted to be adored. There's a difference. Her shoulders sank. She wasn't angry anymore. She was unraveling. Unspooling right there in her expensive dress, surrounded by strangers she'd hoped to impress. Her eyes glossed, lips trembling like maybe she'd cry. Maybe she wouldn't. I didn't care either way. Because this wasn't foreclosure. This was exposure. I didn't leave. I just sat there, quiet, watching her sit in the ashes of her illusion. And that was the final blow. She followed me into the parking lot with fast, uneven steps, heels clicking against the concrete like an alarm she couldn't turn off. Her voice cracked first. You're overreacting, she snapped, and I stopped walking but didn't turn around. The quiet between us stretched like wire. When I did face her, she was already shaking, her arms wrapped around herself like she needed protection from the air. You're seriously going to throw everything away over this, she hissed, but there was no confidence left in it. Just desperation in a new costume. It was a few mornings. It wasn't serious. I didn't even sleep with him at first. She caught herself too late, flinching as the words landed in her own ears. At first, I repeated flatly, watching her face crumble. That's her defense? She moved closer, lowering her voice now, trying to pull us back into some private space that didn't exist anymore. You're not so perfect either. You think I didn't see the way you pulled away? You acted like a ghost for months. You practically invited me to step outside of us. I didn't blink. No, I said, I invited you to speak. To stay. To rebuild. You chose a shortcut with someone who didn't know what you'd already abandoned. She looked down, then up again, tears starting to gloss her eyes. She didn't wipe them. She let them show. You'll never find someone who loves you like I did, she said, voice trembling, soft, like that was her last card. I stepped closer, close enough that she could see there was no hatred in me, just distance. I hope not, I said. Because love without loyalty is just a leash. She gasped like I'd struck her, and in a way, I had. Not with my hands. With what she couldn't deny. She tried a different tone now, pleading, soft, trying to sound small. I made a mistake. A stupid one. But we're bigger than this. We've survived worse. I tilted my head. No, I survived worse. You watched. She swallowed hard, blinking fast. You think this makes you strong? Walking away. Her voice wobbled. You think hurting me makes you powerful? I nodded once. No, not hurting you. Just finally letting you feel the silence you left me in. She was unraveling now, reaching for anything. We can fix this. I'll cut him off. I already did. I swear. Just come home with me. I smiled faintly. You already brought someone else home, Elise. I'm just returning the key. She tried to step closer, but I didn't move. And that, more than anything, made her freeze. Because she finally saw it. The stillness in me. The finality. Her tears started to fall now. Real ones, maybe the first she'd shed without an audience in mind. Please, she whispered. Don't do this. Don't give up on us. I looked at her for a long time, letting her sit in the weight of everything she dismantled. You didn't just break us, I said. You replaced us. With someone temporary. And now that he's fading, you want your safety net back. She shook her head violently. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. I cut in. You just didn't expect me to be the one who let go first. The wind shifted then, cool and sharp, brushing past her like it wanted nothing to do with this wreckage. She was breathing fast, shoulders trembling, mascara bleeding just slightly beneath her eyes. People walked past in the distance, pretending not to notice. But they saw. Everyone did. Because she wasn't a mystery anymore. She was a mirror cracked wide open. She opened her mouth again, one last effort, Some final plea I never let leave her lips. I raised a hand, not to stop her, but to end it. A gesture that said, simply, enough. Then I turned. This time, she didn't follow. The silence she used to weaponize was now collapsing around her. And I didn't have to say another word. Because my silence said everything. It didn't happen all at once. Her unraveling came in phases, like winter that refuses to leave quietly. First, the studio let her go quietly, without a scene. They restructured, they said, but everyone knew. Word travels fast when the illusion breaks. Corey vanished too, of course. The second the fantasy turned to fallout, he slipped away like he was never there. I heard he moved cities, changed jobs. She tried to reach him, even drove to his building once, only to be turned away at the front desk. The circle that used to orbit her, the friends who clapped for her every Instagram mantra, the ones who called her an inspiration, they stopped answering. Some blocked her. Others just faded. No one wants to stand too close to a collapsing stage. Her family tried for a while. But when her father found out what she did, when he saw the receipts, the pictures, the way she'd gaslight her way through 2 years of a marriage while playing house with another man, he stopped calling. Her mother, who once idolized her, said one line to a cousin that made its way back to me. She used to be someone I was proud of. That was enough. Elise didn't have enemies. She had silence. And silence is crueler than anger. I didn't block her. I didn't need to. She texted first. Just one line. I miss you. I didn't answer. Then a photo came. A memory, our 3rd anniversary, that vineyard weekend. She captioned it, "You looked so happy here." A week later, she called. The voicemail was broken. Shaky. "I still love you," she said. "I think we were soulmates. I ruined it. I know, but please, just talk to me." I didn't. Not out of spite, but because I'd finally seen the truth. She wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the version of me that used to orbit her. The man who believed in her, defended her, built life after life with her. But he died the day she chose another man's rug over our home. She messaged again a month later. "Do you ever think about us?" I did. But only in the way you remember a ghost town you once got lost in. I saw her once more. In person. By accident. She was outside a cafe, staring down into her phone like it held the last pieces of her. She looked up and saw me. Her face lit up like she remembered how to hope. She stood too fast, stumbled a little, started toward me with that broken kind of smile, half apology, half desperation. I met her eyes. I didn't stop walking. And in that split second as we passed each other, I saw her realize what she was to me now, a stranger with familiar scars. Someone I once knew. Someone who made herself irrelevant. Her mouth opened, maybe to speak, but the moment was gone. And I didn't even turn. She had turned love into strategy, turned truth into performance, turned our marriage into a platform for her next act. And now, stripped of the lights and the applause and the safety net she thought she could juggle forever, all she had left was the sound of her own collapse. There's no fire left in me for her. No anger. No ache. Just peace. Cold, distant peace. I rebuilt my life quietly, without fanfare. Found warmth that didn't ask for proof. Built a space where loyalty isn't a performance, it's the foundation. And as for Elise, she still sends messages sometimes. I don't read them. I don't need to. Her story ended the moment she mistook my silence for weakness. Turns out, it was just the sound of me sharpening the knife. Thanks for listening. Let me know where you're watching from, and what you would have done if it were your wife.